Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. In today's video we're going to go over the season 16 PvP tier list. So this is going to be ranking heroes purely for the PvP, and we are not going to look at their PvE factor, even though the PvE factor is pretty minimal nowadays, because in pretty much all of the teams you will have the 3 Fade heroes, you will have Arcane Dorbella, you will have Yorm, you will have Elisha, nowadays probably even Babylon, Loki, and perhaps even Izanami. So pretty much PvE teams are going to be all also featuring the S+ tier hero, which is currently titled as Unique Mechanics. But apart from the unique mechanics they bring to the team, they're also exceptional heroes on their own and in the teams they pretty much fit in. So this is not trying to rank heroes as the pure heroes, this is just ranking them in their synergies and with their uniqueness of the kit, so it's a mixture of both tiers. So starting off, I don't even have to talk about Lucifer, the PvP and PvE beast. You will fit her in any team, whether it's PvP or PvE. She will do you good no matter what, and she's the most flexible hero in the game right now, is what I would say. The second one would be probably Primordial Arcdina, just because of her insane passive, which gives your team immortality. So at 12 stars it's really ridiculous. So converts the damage taken into attack, which is a nice passive. It allows for some scaling, but that's not the main part. So in PvP and GVG modes, after immortality is removed, there is 100% chance to reapply Primordial Protection. This effect can trigger 2 times per battle. So her 12 stars is really insane. So after Lucifer, I would say Arcdina is the second most flexible hero that can fit pretty much any team really and make it a really good team, starting off with Dooms or Ethereals. Even something like Ra Death Knight and Primordial Arcdina could work, even though it's quite niche, but she's just really good. Then we have Victoria. Victoria is still one of the greatest heroes. Unfortunately, she does require 11 stars in my opinion. I have her at 10 stars and she's not all that exceptional. She's a strong hero, a good synergy filler at that, a really strong buffer and a DPS burst hero, but the issue is she dies too fast at 10 stars, and you really do feel the difference at 11 and 12 stars when her invincibility goes up to 3 rounds. Hela is second best Fade hero in my opinion, right after Lucifer, second best buffer in the game. She provides stats, she provides CC, she provides damage boost, and damage herself. She's really great, but she's a tier below Lucifer when it comes to Fate heroes. So on top of that, this tier list is trying to rank heroes from left to right, so the left heroes are the best heroes to right in the worst tier. So Loki would be the worst hero in the S+ tier, but the Lucifer is the best hero in the S+ tier. So I'm not going to go over every single hero, but I'm going to try and shortly explain all of them if I can. Venus is the best ethereal hero, bar none. You can pair her with one more ethereal and your team will have infinite ults, and her HP scaling is really insane. The true potential also kind of scales her with Karnak. Karnak is one of the best pairings with Venus because of his insane heals. So Karnak kind of got above value in this season, or rather in the previous seasons, but I did up him a bit from being below in the tier A. Emily is also a hero I have dragged up above because she gained more value because of the Asmodeus. Asmodeus is in the S tier, although she could be arguably in the S+ tier. I wouldn't really argue against that. She's really good whether in Mystifiers or not, and Eve is also pretty much a worthy hero of being S+ in my opinion. Issue is she is kind of tied to Mystifiers, so I'm not going to put her there, but she's going to remain in the best tier of S tier, so she's the best hero in the S tier, and I wouldn't really argue that Asmodeus isn't worthy of being S+ tier, because although her mechanic is not unique because we do have Gaia, but it's just so much better at 12 stars than Gaia's. It's immortality or their invincibility to the whole team, and she's just a better buffer at that, and she also does better damage. So yeah, I wouldn't argue that Asmodeus is either S+ tier or at the beginning of the S tier, so however you want it, she's really strong hero. Babylon is also one of those heroes that pretty much fits into any team, but she's best with Monarchs, like 3+ Monarchs, even 4 Monarchs, she's really good at. The issue is you mostly see her with the Dooms teams, although I'm not a fan of that, but she just simply makes it good to be there because you have 3 good Doom Monarchs, which are both Leviathan and Behemoth. Both 2 heroes are pretty unique, they have really unique skills, and the Leviathan now got her X status, so I would argue if you transcend her, give her +2 Dooms, she's going to be S+ tier. Otherwise, I would move her to the best of the S tier, but I'm going to assume she's going to be X, so I'm going to leave her at the S+ tier. Behemoth is still strong, although she doesn't have X+ tier, unfortunately, but her effect is still so unique. She does so many things at once. She's a Monarch primarily. She does her ultimate at the beginning of the battle. She also taunts all enemies. She also stuns enemies with her Behemoth passive, so she's overall really good. Narisa is the best Phantom Avenger bar none. Her damage cannot be matched by any Avenger in my opinion, apart from Hera, but Hera's damage comes from a passive, whereas Narisa's comes from her actual ultimates. So Narisa is still bar none the best Avenger Phantom in my opinion, and her value is just going to be better once she gets her X status, which hopefully is soon. As Marina will remain in the S+ tier because of her unique passive of countering enemy Phantom Illusion heroes, which means Phantom Illusion heroes are slightly tier below in my opinion. They have been dominating for too long, no longer a clear victory, they're pretty RNG, whether they steal a good hero, they eat a good hero, or whatever happens. Aphrodite still remains one of the best Avenger Monarchs. Same goes with Isis, I would argue, with her X status once she gets there. These 2 heroes are going to make a pretty insane comeback of being just the 2 heroes you can pair with any team with the Monarchs in my opinion. Even something like Babylon and the Leviathan. If you remember, there was a season of Avenger Dooms which was really strong, one of the strongest teams in the game, and I assume if we get Isis in her transcend state, we will be able to revive those teams. So what else I didn't talk about in S+ tier? Well, Elisha stays above Izanami. The reason why I did that is because I believe Elisha is still going to be better just because she's a Monarch, and on top of that, her scaling is also better. However, I do believe Izanami is going to be stronger in the PvE if you're a late game player, but whereas Elisha is going to be stronger in the early game. And as I said, Elisha provides Monarchs, whereas Izanami doesn't, and Elisha is kind of more secure because she also gives you HP on top of Monarchs in her scaling kit, and Izanami doesn't. So yeah, overall Izanami's runes look interesting enough, but apart from that, I do think Elisha is still going to be at the top. Hera, the second best Avenger Phantom in the game right after Primordial Ardina. What Primordial Ardina is for the sustain and immortality, that's Hera for your damage. She basically nukes enemy teams with ease. Loki is in the S+ tier because she's pretty unique. She fits many teams because of her +2 Glorians. She's quite flexible with her own kit, and she doesn't really ruin other synergies by being in a team. She's fast, she does her actions instantly, and she has some nice scaling for the damage. Yorm still remains in the S+ tier because of her uniqueness in the kits, even though she's quite hard to fit, but I believe once she gets the Transcendence bonus, she will be one of the easiest heroes to fit. Similar to Wu Zetian, unfortunately Wu Zetian's effect is kind of hard to see because of how many ultimates there are, actions, revives, etc. I have also moved Ying Zheng up from the A tier. I believe he is worthy in the PvP to be S tier, especially with his unique runes, exclusive runes at that, so I believe he's actually really good, and basically makes your Avenger Phantoms more reliable because he brings more dodge, he brings healings, he brings additional action. So overall he's a really good addition to the team, especially because he's a Celestial at that. Pandora remains in the S tier along with the S Diana and the Death Knight. So basically these 3 heroes are kind of like a duo for the PvP. You pair them together in the backline, Death Knight keeps those 2 alive and also provides them with additional damage, which is a really good combo, but unfortunately not enough to make Valiantors meta right now. But these 3 heroes are pretty much always together, so I really like these 3 duo and I really do like their combo, but I'm hoping that Valiantors get a better hero next season, which will make them more relevant. For the other heroes in the S tier, like Ascended Bastet, Tiamat, Regina Yushta, Tsuki, Gaia Gaia. They're good heroes, good kits, and unfortunately they're not strong enough because either of their synergy or their kit, not making it S+ tier. However, they're still strong teams, they're still strong heroes. These 5 heroes really strong, really fitting many teams. Unfortunately, they're not strong enough compared to these heroes to be in the same tier. So S tier is still strong heroes, one of the most unique heroes, but they do not compare to the S+ tier heroes. Odin is still very unique in her own, taking enemy holy shields, which allows these 3 heroes right here to snowball. I'm going to keep her right here because of her kit uniqueness, because of her Pandora effect, which continues snowball. So she also pretty much fits these 3 in a single team. Really strong. Unfortunately, these 4 heroes don't make any rune synergy. That's the issue I fear with these 4 heroes pairing them together. However, they're too strong overall together, so it kind of doesn't matter. Another hero I have slightly moved up, I believe, is Eudora. I believe she was in the synergy fillers, but now with Izanami out, I believe we can safely create 2 ethereal teams that are strong. And I believe that Eudora will be a contributor at that, so I believe she's going to be raising up slightly, like about here. Izanami, I'm going to assume she's A tier, but I will, for the safety, put her in the S tier. I have seen her performance in the Dimensional Arena and she looks really promising, even though it's hard to figure out what exactly she does in Dimensional Arena that makes her good, apart from the instantaneous counter attacks pretty much. But yeah, apart from that, she seems really promising in Dimensional Arena, so I'm going to put her at the end of the S tier. Hopefully I don't regret this, but we will see how it goes. I'm putting a lot of faith in Izanami to be the best hero of this season, and we will see how that goes. But Susano seems really strong in Dimensional Arena and really promising, so I'm going to keep her at the end of the S tier, which is pretty much A tier, but the best. I'm not sure if I have moved another few heroes up or down. I have moved some of these down because they are not really as strong anymore as they used to be. And I could perhaps, no, actually these heroes right here are pretty just synergy fillers, so they will just fill the spot. So if you're lacking some of these heroes to make a team, you will just simply be using these heroes. Fenrir is one of the unique heroes I tend to like to use. She's really good, but she lacks something. I believe that something is her terrible rune synergy being enchanter, but her kit is pretty solid in the season. I have run her past seasons and she's been really putting up the work, and unfortunately she's just been there as a buffer. So apart from that, I believe she's usable, but same goes for all of these heroes right here, I would argue. So you can use them, they're pretty good, and I would also put these 2 heroes right here. They're outdated, but you can still use them in the PvP if you're like a beginner. Same goes for the Persephone as well, so if you have her legendary or 2 epic 2 legendary exclusive runes, you can safely use her in the 2 Celestial 2 Deviant Phantom teams. She's going to put the work in. So yeah, overall, most of these heroes in these tiers are pretty self-explanatory to their tier name. So yeah, as I said, they just fill in the synergy. Mulan is also pretty good. I would argue Mulan is worthy, same as Lancelot nowadays for the PvP. Even though Lancelot with legendary runes could actually impact your battle by stealing an important hero, Mulan just does so many follow-ups nowadays because of so many actions. For example, someone like Eve brings, so she will apply just too much burn, too much corrode, and even could perhaps do immobilize on the Dahlia, so they don't swap, or Wukong, which is rare, but it could happen. I do believe that this is a good tier list. Don't use these heroes, they are pretty terrible, but who am I to stop you? Although I would argue Franz is slightly better now, because the smooth use, unlike Gaia, makes enemy debuff scale down the speed, so Franz can actually be faster than the enemies nowadays. So I would put him at the top of the outdated, and I would say keep an eye on him with smooth use runes, so he could be actually usable. Although I do prefer using Emily with the smooth use because of how many amounts of corrodes she brings. Franz could be on a lookout nowadays because of the smooth use runes effect. Apart from that, I do believe that everything else here is pretty correct. Unfortunately, Atropus, as good as she is in PvE, she's really as bad as in PvP. So yeah, unfortunate for her, she can be god tier in both modes. Everything else in the A tier is pretty self-explanatory, good for World Arena, but pretty hard to fit in the Foggy Colosseum. This doesn't go for Karnak and Amaterasu, I would argue, so they're quite easy to fit. Perhaps I should change this to be something like pretty niche heroes that are like really good, and really good depending on the heroes you pair them. So same could be said for majority of these heroes right here. So yeah, I think that would be or should be the new title for this tier name. Good depending on paired with which hero. So yeah, that's it. Hopefully I have covered everything that is important. So Althea, also I would like to mention Althea. She's still like S tier if you don't have Yingsheng. So she's S tier if you don't have Yingsheng. If you do have Yingzheng, she moves to the A tier, and she's pretty outdated nowadays because Yingzheng with Hera makes for the 2 Celestials you do need in the Phantom Avengers. If you don't have him, just replace him with Althea. She will do the perfect job. She's really been doing a good job for the past few years, so she's really solid for the job, but Yingzheng just does it better and more efficiently. Janna is also a hero you shouldn't be sleeping on. She's really strong, but if you have other heroes that are better, you should use them. If you don't, just don't sleep on Janna. She's really strong. So Vittoria, even though her legendary runes have been kind of outdated because a lot of heroes have gotten the bind counter effect nowadays, she can be still usable. Same goes for the Doris and Ophelia. Hecate is really good if you pair her with someone like Yingzheng. Unfortunately, you will lose out on the Phantom synergy here, because with Hecate, Yingzheng, you also want Fenrir to buff up the Hecate even more, especially with the Yingzheng's HP to attack conversion. So this trio is really good, but you do lose out on the rune synergy, which kind of hurts later on. Hopefully I have covered everything now. Albert's still good with his legendary runes. Apart from that, just don't use him. It does require legendary runes. Telos still solid for the second Mystiferous team. So nowadays, if you do have Mystiferous, you can just run the second Mystiferous. So for example, you would replace Tsuki and Gaia, and instead you would run a smooth use, and either Mulan or Emily would be my suggestion. And then you can go ahead and deploy these 2 heroes, and then deploy these 3, even though there should be Astrid, which is doing something in the other team. So this is a team you can run for your other Mystiferous. This team should be pretty strong now than before, because you did add Gaia and Tsuki to it, whereas before it looked like something like this. So yeah, on top of that, it's not really a strong team, but now with Gaia and Tsuki it should be pretty decent. I have run a tournament and it was quite exceptional. So yeah, this is the second Mystiferous team in my opinion now, whereas this one is the first. Thank you for watching, guys. Hopefully you like this PvP tier list. Hopefully I went over everything that I consider to be important information. Wukong still remains to be niche, same goes for the Shang and Audrey, although Audrey you can fit in many teams because she steals holy shields and she also does heal your team, also is a Monarch. Thank you for watching and see you guys in the next video.